Hi, Rachel here with this week's video question, which is all about coming out. So, when I originally came out to my wife, it was very much an unplanned event. I just told her one evening in late 2011, and it was a big old crying, snotty, teary, shame-ridden, guilt-ridden mess. It wasn't pretty at all, but she was completely supportive from that moment onwards. The next person I told was my boss at work 2 months later, and I needed that ally, because I wanted to present more feminine at work. This is what I was trying to achieve. Well, in all contexts really, but work was next. So I needed that ally. I told her, and her initial reaction was, and then when she'd regained the power of speech, then she was supportive as well. So I started to present more and more feminine at work, and in the way I dressed and makeup, in the way I behaved. And I was telling colleagues as well. But of course, the more I changed my presentation, the less need there was to come out to colleagues, because they could just see the change already. And eventually it just became obvious and no more coming out to do. And that was about the summer of 2012. So I was then exploring my gender identity more and starting the medical aspects of transition, and realised I was trans and that I wanted to change my name, but it took me a while to have the courage to do so, because I thought I couldn't get away with it, like getting away with it as a thing. I thought I couldn't pull it off somehow, but I eventually realised that it was the right time. So in autumn 2013, I came to change my name and gender and pronouns, which of course means coming out all over again. My wife did a lot of the calling around of places, banks and power companies and so forth, to get my name changed on their records. So that was really great. But the name change is a bit of a clue. If someone finds your old name and new name next to each other, then there's usually a conversation to be had, and you just kind of have to bite the bullet and say, yeah, that's the same person, that's me. I did think for a while about, would I be okay at being stealth? I don't think I would. I don't think I'd want to anyway, because it's just getting back into a different closet, right? Because you don't want people to find out that you're trans. That doesn't sound much fun. So that means, I'm out and I'm staying out as trans. But there are times when it's not something that I want to mention. It's just not relevant. So let's say, if I go to the doctors, if I'm going, do I tell them I'm trans then? Well, it depends. If I'm going for a cough, no, it's not really relevant. If I'm talking about my HRT and blood tests, yeah, it's very much relevant. If I'm talking about some condition which affects women more than men, maybe. And that's one of these tricky judgment calls, And so let's say I tell them, but of course next time I go back to the doctors, maybe there's a different nurse or a different doctor. So I've got to do it all over again because they don't know. Coming out initially as trans was, initially as gender non-conforming, was really hard. But it got easier and easier each time. And in fact, I know I've been lucky, but for me, it's never actually been as hard as I've been expecting. It's always been better each time. I carried my secret with guilt and shame for over 25 years, living as a sort of half person. But now I'm able to live a far more complete and fulfilled life. I'm just far happier. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click that like button and feel free to send comments, and of course don't forget to subscribe to the Engender YouTube channel. And I'll see you all again for another video next week. Bye!